Are you self-employed? Have you thought about becoming self-employed? Maybe in what you're already doing or something completely new. I've spoken to many clients in the past who have been working in jobs for years and they just can't bring themselves to step away from the comfort and move over to self-employment. And I get it, I really do. Could it be for you? Is it worth the jump? Let's find out in week 16 of Battery Man. This is quite a good question to ask during my training. Oh, if you're new, hi there. We're following my journey from a guy who's interested in the mechanical world and electrics to becoming an electrician. So far, we're around 4 months in. So the questions we're asking are good ones, as any training electrician has two options. One to be employed or to be self-employed. Both have benefits and both have their drawbacks. But we can apply this to any trade and almost any job, so let's consider it more generally. Personally, I've been self-employed for well over 15 years, which has had its benefits and allowed me to have a more family-friendly work schedule. It's also allowed me to squeeze a little bit of time in to make these videos. I've got to be honest, despite its challenges, and it has its challenges, I do love self-employment, but I just don't like working on my own. This is one of those challenges you may find with self-employment, and it's why I've worked hard to make sure that my existing business is set up so that I'm not working on my own. So a problem with self-employment that has a solution. If you're good at finding solutions, self-employment might be for you. Okay, you're thinking of becoming self-employed, maybe dreaming of handing your notice in. But how are you going to make it work? Hold up, there's still a little more that we need to work out. Applying this week's study material to my plans going forward with an electrical business, I'll be honest, there are thoughts that stress me out. There's so many tools that I've got to collect, and this all costs money. So many situations that I imagine that my training material won't cover. Maybe it'll leave me scratching my head. Looking on the Facebook groups, you can see qualified electricians asking questions over niche installs and problems. What if, as a newly qualified electrician, I just can't fix the problem for the customer? Also, how likely or quickly am I going to be able to include an employee in a brand new self-employed business? These are all questions that I've been mulling over, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm not going to worry about them too much for now. This isn't like me. I like to have everything planned out. But thinking about it, I've still got a 1.5 years worth of training and a lot can change in that time. So maybe if you're considering going self-employed in whatever type of business you're interested in, why not do a bit of research and find out how others do it? Find out what training you need to carry out and what it's likely to cost you to get into it. I'm going to talk about cost. I don't just mean money. You're going to be putting in a lot of time for no financial reward, or at least for no reward for a time. Going back to my electrical future, I do have plans for where I'll take my business. And if you want to know more, you're just going to have to like and subscribe and look out for future videos. Go on, you know you want to. Employment appeals to me, you know. Believe it or not, after being self-employed so long, the thought of being able to just come home and switch off, to not worry about sick days or holiday days, eating into productive days is appealing. If you're self-employed already, I'm sure you know what I mean. The other advantage I see to employment is being able to work on infrastructure and projects that I just wouldn't be able to on my own. I quite like the idea of maintaining wind turbines all working on the grid. And I just don't see a path to these being self-employed to achieve this. I also like the idea of maintaining renewable technology to get to the size and scale we need for a low carbon world. For these sort of jobs, employment is definitely an easier option. Going back to self-employment, One of the potential challenges is that the buck stops with you. This means that you're responsible for bringing in the work. The other side of this is you get to choose what you work on. You get to choose where you go. Being self-employed, there's nothing better than the feeling of winning a contract for a type of work that you haven't done before or that you've been trying to get into for a little while. If you're employed, you just go where you're told. Being self-employed, you're responsible for the back end and smooth operating of the customer process, which can include getting money out of customers and making sure that it's all accounted for and that the government gets their money. Yes, I'm talking about paperwork. With electrical work, there's compliance that needs to be carried out. Maybe the self-employed work that you're doing has none of this. Perhaps a photographer or a graphic designer or even a gardener. All of these people I think of as having freedom. Freedom to choose who they work for and freedom to get on with their day how they want to. I've been talking about potential challenges of self-employment because not everybody finds these things challenging. We all have different skill sets, and it's for this reason that some people are probably employed and some people self-employed. Maybe you're a natural salesman or you're just really organized. Being self-employed, I think you require to be a bit of a jack of all trades, being able to cover all things unless you grow your business to the size where you can specialize in the tasks that you're better at. But it's going to take some time, and you're going to need to have an element of being multi-skilled to get to that point. Then there's the question of money. We all do this for money, right? Got to make a living to earn a wage. Unless you're made redundant, employment is considered very secure compared to the up and down of incoming work with self-employed people. If you're self-employed, it's a good idea to set aside a bit of money for sick days and holiday days and breakdowns such as a van. These things can be harder at the start when you're used to an employed wage and perhaps have not built up a buffer. I always think if you can, it's best to start with a buffer and expect any self-employment to cost a bit more than you expect at the start. But with some graft, you'll get through it. Maybe the first step is to just save now. I always think we can learn a lot from those that have already taken a path that you're thinking of considering. So, consider those that have been self-employed in the past or currently are. What can you learn from them? How did they find it and what challenges did they face? What benefits did they find? You know, it would make my day if some experienced electricians would comment what advice they have, not just for me, but for anyone that's starting out as an electrician. I know what you're thinking. Don't comment. Don't become an electrician. I'd also love to hear from anyone that's thinking of taking the jump or has in the past in any type of self-employment. As I said earlier in the video, I've got some plans, but it's not all mapped out. I've got a long way to go. I've still got well over a year and a half before I'm considered qualified. One thing I can be sure of is that after, I'll be carrying out my EV charging and solar install courses. It's installing off-grid solar that got me into this mess in the first place. Next week, we're going to presume that you've all dived into self-employment and that you'll become an electrician. We'll look a little bit deeper at some of the challenges and how you might get set up in being self-employed. This is a very small channel. To like and subscribe really makes a difference. Thank you. See you next week. Battery Man out.